The diamond caught the light differently that evening. I noticed it during our monthly family dinner as I reached for my wine glass. Something was off about the way it sparkled. After 15 years of marriage, you get to know every facet of your wedding ring. I'm Yasmin, and that moment marked the beginning of my transformation from a measured corporate attorney into someone I never thought I'd become. Another big win this week? Derek's voice carried that familiar mocking tone across the dinner table. My brother-in-law had mastered the art of making achievements sound like failures. Must be nice pushing papers around while the rest of us create actual value in the world. I forced a smile, twisting the ring on my finger. The weight felt wrong, too. Some of us prefer to build careers on solid ground rather than chasing unicorn startups, Derek. Speaking of building things, my husband Robin chimed in, trying to diffuse the tension like always. I just finished a new sculpture commission. The client... Oh, please, Derek cut him off. Spare us another story about your artsy ventures. I'm more interested in Yasmin's latest adventure in document shuffling. He leaned forward, eyes fixed on my hand. Nice ring you've got there, by the way. Really catches the light, doesn't it? The room went quiet. My sister-in-law, Sarah, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Robin looked confused, but I felt my blood run cold. What did you do? I kept my voice steady, years of courtroom experience kicking in. Derek's smile widened. Remember when you left your ring at the pool last month during our family barbecue? Such a careless mistake for someone so detail-oriented. You didn't. Robin's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Oh, but I did. Derek pulled something from his pocket, my actual wedding ring. Cubic zirconia is getting really good these days, isn't it? Almost impossible to tell the difference. Well, unless you're as observant as our star attorney here. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Give me my ring, Derek. Come on, it was just a joke. He dangled it between his fingers. I wanted to see how long it would take Little Miss Perfect to notice. 3 weeks, I'm actually impressed. This isn't funny, Sarah whispered, but Derek ignored her. What's the matter, Yasmin? Can't take a little prank? Maybe if you spent less time bragging about your latest corporate takeover and more time paying attention to what's important? I walked around the table, each step measured and deliberate. The ring, now. He placed it in my palm with exaggerated ceremony. There you go, counselor. No harm done. I slipped off the fake and replaced it with my real ring, the familiar weight settling back where it belonged. The room remained silent as I returned to my seat. You know what's funny, Derek? I smiled, reaching for my wine glass again. I just remembered something interesting about patent law. Fascinating field, really. Especially when it comes to tech startups and their, shall we say, creative interpretations of existing patents. His smile faltered slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. I took a sip of wine. Just making conversation. How is your investment in that new AI company going? The one you won't stop talking about? Thriving, he snapped. We're revolutionizing the industry. Wonderful. I set down my glass. I look forward to seeing how that plays out. The rest of dinner passed in awkward conversation about weather and local news. Robin squeezed my hand under the table, but I barely registered it. My mind was already racing through case files and legal precedents. Later that night, as Robin and I got ready for bed, he tried to apologize for his brother's behavior. I can't believe he would do something like that. I'll talk to him. Don't. I was already typing on my phone, searching for a specific contact. Some people only learn through consequences, Robin, and consequences happen to be my specialty. What are you planning? I looked up from my phone, thinking about the stack of files on my desk at work, the ones about Derek's precious startup and their questionable patent applications. Justice, I said simply. But first, I need to make a call to an old friend. As Robin fell asleep beside me, I lay awake, fingers tracing the familiar edges of my real ring. Derek had always treated my career like a joke, my success like a fluke. He thought swapping my ring was just another way to put me in my place. But he'd forgotten something crucial. I didn't become one of the top corporate attorneys in the city by letting people walk all over me. Tomorrow, I would start making calls. By the time I was done, Derek would learn exactly what a paper-pushing lawyer could do. I smiled in the darkness, already drafting the legal strategy in my head. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it just needs to be perfectly, meticulously legal. So, you want to destroy your brother-in-law's startup? Rhea leaned back in her leather chair, studying me with those penetrating eyes that had guided me through countless career decisions. Not destroy, I corrected, adjusting my position on her office couch. Just make a point. Yasmin, in the 3 years you've been coming to me for life coaching, I've never seen you this angry. She set down her notepad. Tell me what's really bothering you. He switched my wedding ring with a fake Rhea. He violated something sacred just to prove he could fool me. My voice cracked slightly. And that's just the latest in 15 years of constant belittlement. And your first instinct is to go after his business? It's what I'm good at. I stood up and walked to her window, watching the city bustle below. You should have seen his face when he revealed the switch, like he'd finally proven I'm not as smart as everyone thinks I am. Rhea's chair creaked as she joined me at the window. What if I told you there might be a better way to handle this? One that could give you what you want while actually making things better? I turned to face her. I'm listening. You mentioned his startup has some patent issues. Instead of destroying them, why not position yourself as the solution? What do you mean? Think about it. What would hurt Derek more, watching his company burn or having to come to you for help? A slow smile spread across my face. You want me to make him need me? Exactly. Rhea returned to her desk and pulled out a file. I've been doing some research since your call yesterday. That AI startup he's invested in? They're about to announce a major product launch. How did you... I have my sources. She handed me the file. Their tech looks impressive, but from what I understand about patent law, they're walking a very thin line. I flipped through the documents, my legal mind already spotting potential issues. These algorithms? They're definitely infringing on at least 3 existing patents. So what would happen if someone were to point that out? Not aggressively, but perhaps through proper channels? They'd need immediate legal intervention to avoid a shutdown. I closed the file, seeing where she was going with this. And, given my specialty in tech patent law, you'd be the obvious choice to help them. Rhea smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone, Yasmin. It's about making them realize they need exactly what they've been mocking. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Quentin, my young associate. Found something interesting about Apex Tech's patent applications. Free for coffee? Perfect timing. I showed Rhea the message. Quentin's been researching Derek's startup for me. Before you go, Rhea stood up, her expression serious. Remember, this isn't just about revenge, it's about changing the dynamic. Make Derek respect you, not fear you. 20 minutes later, I met Quentin at our usual coffee spot. His excitement was palpable as he spread documents across the table. Look at this, he pointed to a highlighted section. Their core AI processing method? It's practically identical to the one patented by Global Systems last year. And Derek probably has no idea, I mused, sipping my latte. He's not exactly detail-oriented when it comes to legal matters. There's more. Quentin pulled out another document. They're planning to announce their product at the Tech Innovation Summit next month. If someone were to raise these patent issues before then, their stock would plummet before they even launch. I felt a familiar rush of strategic excitement, but we're not going to do that. Quentin looked confused. We're not? No, I smiled, thinking of Rhea's advice. We're going to wait until they announce. Let Derek have his moment in the sun. Then, we'll send a friendly letter pointing out the patent issues and offering our services to help resolve them. That's actually brilliant. Quentin's eyes widened. He'll have to come to you for help. Exactly. And when he does, I'll be nothing but professional. I gathered the documents. Because that's what real lawyers do, right? We don't just push papers, we solve problems. As I walked back to my office, I felt lighter than I had in days. This wasn't about petty revenge anymore. This was about proving my worth in a way Derek couldn't ignore. My phone buzzed again. Robin this time. Derek's been bragging about the startup all day. Says it's going to change everything. You okay? I typed back, Never better. Sometimes the best response to mockery is excellence. Sitting at my desk, I started drafting the framework for what would become either a brilliant legal strategy or a masterclass in professional karma. Either way, Derek was about to learn that underestimating me was the biggest mistake he'd ever made. And the best part, I wouldn't have to break a single law to prove it. 3 patent violations, 2 trademark infringements, and 1 potentially stolen source code. I laid out the evidence on Stephanie's desk, watching my mentor's eyebrows rise with each document. What do you think? Stephanie adjusted her reading glasses, examining the files with the scrutiny that had made her one of the city's most feared patent attorneys. I think your brother-in-law is sitting on a legal time bomb. The question is, how do we approach this without looking vindictive? Well, Stephanie leaned back, a knowing smile crossing her face. You could always let someone else make the first move. Before I could respond, Quentin burst into the office, barely remembering to knock. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. He thrust his tablet toward us, displaying a tech news website. Apex just announced their launch date, 3 weeks from now. I scanned the article, my heart racing. They're calling it revolutionary AI technology that will reshape the industry. Derek's quoted here, bragging about their innovative approach. Innovative is one word for it, Stephanie muttered, pointing to a specific paragraph. Look at how they describe their processing algorithm. They're not even trying to hide the similarity to Global Systems' patent. What's our next move? Quentin asked, practically bouncing with anticipation. I pulled out my phone, checking my calendar. First, we need to... A knock at the door interrupted me. Robin stood there looking uncomfortable. Hey, sorry to drop by unannounced, but Derek's downstairs. He wants to talk to you. My stomach tightened. About what? He says it's about the startup. Something about wanting your legal opinion before the launch. Stephanie and Quentin exchanged glances as I gathered the documents, quickly sliding them into a folder. Perfect timing, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Send him up. Minutes later, Derek strode into the office like he owned it, his usual smirk firmly in place. Little sister, hope I'm not interrupting your important paper pushing. What can I help you with, Derek? I gestured to a chair, maintaining my professional demeanor. Well, since you're so interested in patent law, he settled into the seat, spreading his legs in that deliberately dominating way of his. I thought I'd let you take a look at our tech. Maybe you'd like to invest? Get in on the ground floor of something actually important? I opened my laptop, keeping my expression neutral. Why don't you walk me through what you're working on? For the next 20 minutes, Derek enthusiastically detailed Apex's technology, unknowingly confirming every patent violation we'd discovered. I took notes, watching Stephanie's face grow increasingly concerned behind him. So, he concluded, what do you think? Ready to put some of that lawyer money into a real business? Actually, I turned my laptop around, displaying one of Global Systems' patents. I have some concerns about this part of your processing method. Derek's smile faltered slightly. What about it? It bears a striking resemblance to existing technology. Have your legal team reviewed these patents? We have people who handle that stuff. He waved dismissively. Everything's fine. Are you sure? I pulled up another document. Because this could be a serious issue if... Look, he cut me off, standing abruptly. I didn't come here for a lecture. I was trying to do you a favor, give you a chance to be part of something meaningful instead of just this. He gestured around my office with disdain. I stood as well, matching his stance. Derek, as your sister-in-law and a patent attorney, I strongly suggest you have your legal team review these documents before your launch. Always have to prove you're the smartest person in the room, don't you? His voice dripped with contempt. This is why nobody likes working with lawyers. You think you know everything. I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to show off. He headed for the door, then turned back with a sneer. By the way, how's that ring fitting? Still sure it's the real one? After he left, Stephanie broke the tense silence. Well, that was illuminating. Did you get all that? I asked Quentin, who had been quietly recording the conversation with my prior approval, standard practice for legal consultations. He nodded, holding up his phone. Every word, including his admission that they haven't properly vetted the patents. Perfect. I sat back down, my hands shaking slightly with anger and anticipation. Now we wait. For what? Robin asked, having witnessed the entire exchange from the doorway. I pulled out the folder of evidence we'd collected. For Derek to learn that sometimes pushing papers is exactly what creates actual value in the world. And when he does? Quentin asked. Then, I smiled, thinking of Ria's advice. I'll be here to help him fix it, whether he likes it or not. The pieces were falling into place. Derek had just walked into my office and handed me everything I needed. Sometimes revenge doesn't require elaborate schemes. Sometimes it just requires patience and letting people reveal their own mistakes. 3 weeks until the launch. The countdown had begun. You should see his face when he talks about the startup, Robin said, arranging his latest sculpture in our living room. I've never seen Derek so excited about anything. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing the final details of our legal strategy. Excited enough to have actually checked their patents? Come on, Yasmin. Maybe we should tell him what you found. Give him a chance to fix it before... The doorbell interrupted us. Robin's new potential buyer, some tech executive he'd met at a gallery, was right on time for dinner. Just be nice, Robin whispered as he went to answer the door. For me? I closed my laptop and plastered on my best corporate smile as a tall man in an expensive suit walked in. Michael, welcome to our home, Robin greeted him warmly. This place is amazing, Michael said, looking around at Robin's artwork. His eyes landed on me. And you must be the famous lawyer wife I've heard about. Guilty as charged, I replied, shaking his hand. Actually, Michael's eyes lit up. I'd love your opinion on something. I've been hearing incredible things about this new AI company, Apex Tech. They're about to revolutionize the industry with their processing algorithms. I nearly choked on my wine. Oh, what have you heard? Their approach to AI processing is groundbreaking. I'm considering a major investment before their launch next week. He pulled out his phone, showing me their investor presentation. Look at these projections. Robin shot me a warning glance as I examined the slides. Those are impressive numbers, I managed. Derek, my brother, he's one of their key investors, Robin added proudly. He's got a real eye for successful ventures. Michael's expression brightened further. Derek Hopkins? I just had lunch with him yesterday. Brilliant guy. He really understands the tech landscape. I set down my wine glass harder than necessary. Would anyone like to see Robin's new sculpture? But Michael wasn't done. You know, Derek mentioned you work in corporate law. He says you're very detail-oriented. Something in his tone made me think Derek's actual words had been less complimentary. I specialize in patent law, actually, I replied, watching Michael's expression carefully, particularly in the tech sector. Oh? A flicker of concern crossed his face. Have you looked at Apex's patents? I'm familiar with their technology. I smiled tightly. It's certainly innovative. Robin cleared his throat loudly. The sculpture? It's just in the other room. Just one more question, Michael turned back to me. As a patent attorney, what do you think about their claims regarding their processing method? Some people are saying it's similar to existing technology. I felt Robin's eyes on me, silently pleading. This was my chance to warn them, to prevent what was coming. But I remembered Derek's smirk as he dangled my wedding ring, his constant belittlement of my career. I couldn't comment without reviewing their documentation in detail, I said smoothly, but I'm sure they've done their due diligence. Later that night, after Michael left with a promise to purchase Robin's sculpture, my husband confronted me in our bedroom. You could have warned him, Robin said quietly. You could have prevented him from making a bad investment. Like Derek prevented me from wearing a fake ring for 3 weeks, I snapped, then immediately regretted it at Robin's hurt expression. This isn't just about Derek anymore, he said. Michael seems like a good guy. He doesn't deserve to lose money because my brother is... He trailed off. An arrogant jerk who never bothers to check the details? I finished for him. I was going to say, overconfident. Robin sat on the bed beside me. Look, I know what Derek did was wrong, but this plan of yours, it's going to hurt more people than just him. My phone buzzed, a text from Quinton. Global Systems just received our anonymous tip about the patent violation. Their legal team is reviewing it. It's too late to stop it now, I showed Robin the message. The wheels are in motion. There's always time to choose a different path, he said softly. That's what makes us better than Derek. I stared at my wedding ring, the real one, catching the light just as it should. Sometimes the right path isn't the easy one. And sometimes, Robin kissed my forehead before turning out the light, revenge isn't as satisfying as we think it will be. I lay awake long after Robin fell asleep, thinking about Michael's eager face as he talked about investing, about the other innocent people who might get caught in the crossfire of my vendetta against Derek. For the first time since this began, I wondered if I was becoming exactly what Derek had always accused me of being, someone who cared more about being right than doing right. But it was too late now. In less than a week, everything would come to a head, and there would be no turning back. The Tech Innovation Summit buzzed with excitement. I stood at the back of the packed auditorium, watching Derek take the stage with Apex's CEO. Quinton appeared at my side, tablet in hand. Global Systems lawyers are in position, he whispered. They're waiting for the product demonstration to file the injunction. I nodded, my stomach churning as Derek grabbed the microphone. Today, we're not just launching a product, he announced, beaming with pride. We're revolutionizing artificial intelligence as we know it. The crowd applauded. In the front row, I spotted Michael, the art buyer, leaning forward eagerly. Robin sat beside him, shooting worried glances in my direction. Our proprietary processing algorithm, Derek continued, represents a breakthrough in AI technology, something that's never been done before. My phone vibrated. A message from Stephanie. Global's legal team is reviewing the live stream. Ready when you are. Watch this demonstration. Derek pressed a button, and screens around the auditorium lit up with Apex's interface. Our AI can process complex data sets in milliseconds, using our innovative... The rest of his words faded as I noticed something odd. The processing method they were showing wasn't the one from their patent applications. This was different. My heart rate quickened as I frantically scrolled through the documents on my phone. "Quinton!" I hissed. "Are you seeing this?" He was already typing furiously. "They changed it. The whole system is different. This isn't infringing on anything," I finished, a cold realization washing over me. They must have found the issues and fixed them. The demonstration continued as I fired off messages to Stephanie and Global's legal team. The response came back quickly. The new system appeared to be legally clear. My carefully laid trap had just evaporated. Derek's voice cut through my panic. "And we have someone special to thank for this last-minute improvement." He smiled directly at me in the back of the room. My sister-in-law Yasmin, whose thorough legal concerns helped us refine our approach. The audience turned to look at me. Robin's eyes widened in surprise. "Come on up here, Yasmin," Derek called out. "Don't be shy. Show everyone how your paper pushing actually helped us create something better." My legs moved automatically, carrying me to the stage. Derek's smile was different now, not mocking, but something else I couldn't quite read. "Thanks to Yasmin's eagle eye," he continued as I reached the podium, "we discovered some potential issues with our original design. Her, let's call it intense interest in our patents, forced us to innovate even further." The audience applauded. I stood there, frozen, as Derek turned to me. "Would you like to explain to everyone how your legal expertise helped shape this breakthrough?" he asked, holding out the microphone. In that moment, I saw what he'd done. He'd known. Somehow, he'd known what I was planning and had used it to make Apex's technology even stronger. My revenge had backfired spectacularly. I took the microphone, legal training kicking in to maintain composure. "As a patent attorney, my job is to ensure innovation happens within proper legal frameworks. I'm pleased that Apex took these concerns seriously." "She's being modest." Derek wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "Without her careful review, we might have launched an inferior product. Sometimes we need someone to point out our blind spots, even if we don't want to hear it." More applause. I felt sick. The rest of the presentation passed in a blur. When it finally ended, Derek pulled me aside in the green room. "Did you really think I wouldn't have someone monitoring for potential legal challenges?" he asked, his voice surprisingly gentle. Especially from you? How long did you know? About your investigation? Pretty much from the start? About the ring switch being a mistake that went too far, since I saw your face that night at dinner? He actually looked uncomfortable. I deserved whatever you were planning. So you fixed the patents just to thwart me? No, he sighed. I fixed them because you were right, and because sometimes the best way to beat someone at their own game is to actually learn from them. Before I could respond, Michael burst in. Derek! The investors are going crazy for this. We're looking at triple our projected funding. As they celebrated, I slipped out of the room. Robin was waiting in the hallway. You knew? I asked him. Derek told me last week, he admitted. He wanted to make things right, but in his own way. By humiliating me in front of everyone? By giving you credit for making Apex better. Robin took my hand, thumb brushing over my wedding ring. Sometimes winning doesn't look the way we expect it to. I looked down at our joined hands, thinking about karma and consequences, about revenge and redemption. Maybe the real victory wasn't in tearing Derek down, but in forcing him to rise to a higher standard, even if it meant admitting I'd helped him get there. Come on, Robin squeezed my hand. I hear there's champagne at the reception, and I think you and Derek have some real talking to do. The reception buzzed with excitement, but I couldn't focus on the champagne or congratulations. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating with messages from Stephanie and our legal team, all trying to understand what had just happened. There's our star legal advisor, Derek's voice boomed across the room. He was surrounded by investors, their faces glowing with the promise of future profits. Yasmin, come tell everyone how you helped shape Apex's success story. I plastered on my courtroom smile and walked over. Just doing my job. Always so modest, Derek grinned, but his eyes held something different, uncertainty, maybe even a hint of guilt. Listen, could we talk? Privately? Before I could answer, Quentin rushed up to us, his face pale. Yasmin, we have a problem, a big one. Derek's expression shifted. What kind of problem? Not here. Quentin glanced nervously at the investors. We found an empty conference room. Quentin pulled out his tablet, hands shaking slightly. The new processing method? It's not completely clear either. There's another patent holder, a small startup in Seattle. They filed 6 months ago. Derek's confidence crumbled. What? But we checked everything. They're filing an injunction right now, Quentin continued. They want an immediate cease and desist on the product launch. How bad? I asked, already pulling up my email. Bad enough to tank the company if we don't handle it right, Quentin replied. They've got a solid case. Derek slumped into a chair, running his hands through his hair. All those investors out there. We just announced, this can't be happening. I watched him, remembering all the times he'd mocked my career, called it meaningless paper pushing. Now here he was, about to lose everything because of those same papers. Show me the patent, I said to Quentin. For the next 20 minutes, we reviewed the documents. The overlap was significant, but not total. There might be room to maneuver, but it would take careful negotiation. Well? Derek looked up at me, and for the first time in 15 years, I saw genuine respect in his eyes. Can you fix this? Maybe, I said slowly. But you'd have to trust me completely. No more games, no more mockery. Anything, he said quickly. Please, Yasmin. I know I don't deserve your help, but there are people counting on me. Good people who invested their savings. Like Michael? I raised an eyebrow. Derek winced. I never should have encouraged him to invest before we were totally clear. I never should have done a lot of things. My phone buzzed again. The Seattle company's lawyers wanted an immediate response. I thought about karma, about revenge, about how victory sometimes comes in unexpected forms. Okay, I straightened up. Here's what we're going to do. Quentin, get Stephanie on video conference. Derek, I need you to tell me absolutely everything about your technology. No holding back, no corporate secrets. Now, he glanced at the door. What about the reception? What's more important, celebrating a product launch or making sure you actually have a product to launch? He nodded, pulling out his laptop. Where do you want me to start? For the next 2 hours, we worked intensively. Derek explained every detail of their technology, while I identified potential negotiation points. Stephanie joined us virtually, helping craft a strategy. "This could work," she said finally, "but it's going to take some serious diplomacy and probably a licensing agreement." "Whatever it takes," Derek agreed immediately. "I trust Yasmin's judgment." Those words hung in the air between us. Trust. After everything that had happened, here we were, working together to save his company. "I need to ask," I said during a brief break. "The ring switch. Why?" Derek couldn't meet my eyes. "I was jealous, I guess. You've always been so perfect. Every case, every argument, every detail exactly right. I wanted to prove you could miss something important." "And instead?" "Instead, I proved that paying attention to details matters more than I thought." He managed a small smile. The irony isn't lost on me. A knock at the door interrupted us. Robin peeked in. "Everything okay in here?" "Getting there," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "We're working on it together." "Together?" Robin looked between us, hope crossing his face. "Yeah," Derek stood up, offering his hand to me. "If my sister-in-law is willing to help after everything I've done." I took his hand, feeling the weight of my real wedding ring against my fingers. That's what family does, right? We help each other, even when it's complicated. "Even when one of us has been a complete jerk," Derek added. "Especially then." I turned back to my laptop. "Now let's figure out how to save your company without breaking any more patents." As we dove back into work, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's being exactly who you are, doing exactly what you're good at until even your critics can't deny your value. The Seattle startup's legal team filled one side of the conference room, their expressions stern and unyielding. Derek sat beside me, fidgeting with his tie as we waited for the negotiations to begin. "Remember," I whispered, "let me handle the talking." Like I have a choice? His attempt at humor couldn't hide his nervousness. My company's future depends on my sister-in-law's paper-pushing skills. Funny how that works out, isn't it? The lead attorney from Seattle cleared his throat. "Shall we begin? We have clear evidence that Apex's technology infringes on our client's patent." I opened my folder calmly. "Before we discuss infringement, I'd like to present a different perspective." I slid copies of my prepared documents across the table. As you can see, while there are similarities in the base processing method, Apex's implementation includes several unique innovations. "Innovations built on stolen intellectual property," their lawyer countered. "Actually," I pulled up a presentation on the screen. "If you look at the development timeline, you'll see both companies arrived at similar solutions independently. The question isn't who owns the idea, but how we can move forward beneficially for both parties." Derek leaned forward, finally speaking up. "We're willing to discuss licensing terms." The other side exchanged glances. This was the opening we needed. For the next 3 hours, we negotiated. I watched Derek's face as he gradually understood the intricacies of what he'd previously dismissed as mere paperwork. Every clause, every term, every carefully worded agreement could make or break his company's future. "What if," I proposed during a crucial moment, "we consider a collaborative approach? Apex's innovations combined with your client's foundational technology could advance the field significantly. Instead of fighting over patents, we could be discussing a partnership." The Seattle team called for a break to consult with their clients. In the hallway, Derek grabbed my arm. "A partnership? Is that really our best option?" "Trust me," I said. "Sometimes winning means finding a solution where everyone benefits." He studied my face. "Like you did with me? Using my mistake to make the company stronger?" "Exactly. Sometimes the best legal strategy isn't about destroying the opposition. It's about building something better together." The other team returned with their client on video conference. The next hour was intense negotiation over terms, percentages, and implementation details. I felt Derek's tension beside me as we worked through each point. Finally, their lead attorney sat back. "We accept the partnership proposal, with the terms as discussed. Our client believes this could indeed benefit both companies." Relief flooded Derek's face, but I wasn't done. "One more thing." I pulled out a final document. A public acknowledgement of both companies' contributions to the technology. Full transparency about the collaboration. Trying to keep us honest? Their lawyer smiled slightly. Trying to build trust, I corrected. It's better for everyone if we start this partnership with complete clarity. As they reviewed the document, Derek whispered, "Just like you did with the ring, bringing everything into the light. Sometimes that's the only way forward." The agreements were signed by late afternoon. As the Seattle team packed up, their lead attorney approached me. "Impressive work," he said. "You turned what could have been a destructive lawsuit into a profitable partnership." Not many lawyers think that way. Not many lawyers have had to negotiate family peace treaties, I replied, thinking of the journey that had led us here. After everyone left, Derek and I stood looking out the conference room window at the city below. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "Several, actually. Just one will do for now. I'm sorry about the ring. It was childish and cruel. I was so busy trying to prove you wrong that I couldn't see how much I needed your skills. And now? Now I understand why you're so detail-oriented, why every word and clause matters." He turned to face me. "You don't just push papers, Yasmin. You build foundations that protect people's dreams. Even the dreams of people who mock my career. Especially those people." He smiled ruefully. "They need the most help, even if they don't know it yet." My phone buzzed. A message from Robin. "How did it go?" I showed Derek the text. Should I tell him his brother finally learned to appreciate lawyers? Tell him his brother finally learned to appreciate his sister-in-law. Derek headed for the door, then paused. "Family dinner this weekend? Sarah's cooking. I promise to keep all jewelry authentic." I laughed, surprising myself with how genuine it felt. "I'll be there. Just remember, I know some excellent patent lawyers if you ever need one again." "I know the best one," he replied seriously. "And I won't forget it this time." As I watched him leave, I realized that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the fight. It's in transforming an enemy into an ally, a mocker into a believer, and a family conflict into a foundation for something stronger. The aroma of Sarah's lasagna filled the dining room as our family gathered for our traditional Sunday dinner. This time, something felt different. The usual tension was replaced by a warmth I hadn't felt in years. "So," Sarah set down the dish, "I hear the partnership is going well?" Derek nodded enthusiastically. "The Seattle team's technology combined with ours? We're seeing results we never imagined possible." "All thanks to our favorite paper pusher." Robin squeezed my hand under the table. "Actually," Derek cleared his throat, "that's why I wanted everyone here tonight. We have an announcement." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. Derek stood up, pulling out a folder. One of mine, I realized with surprise. "Yasmin," he turned to me, "Apex would like to offer you a position as our chief legal officer. Full partnership stake." The room went silent. I set down my fork carefully. "You want me to join Apex?" "We need you," Derek said simply. "The Seattle partnership showed me that having strong legal guidance isn't just about avoiding problems. It's about creating opportunities." "What about my firm?" I asked, though I could feel excitement building. "Keep it," he replied. "We'd be your primary client, but you've built something valuable there. I wouldn't ask you to give that up." Robin was beaming beside me. "You knew about this?" "Derek asked my opinion last week," he admitted. "I told him it was about time he recognized your value." "There's more." Derek pulled something else from the folder, a small velvet box. "This is long overdue." Inside was a ring, identical to my wedding ring. "I don't understand," I said. "It's a backup," Derek explained, looking embarrassed. "In case anything ever happens to your real one. No more swaps, no more tricks, just insurance. Because that's what good legal planning is about, right? Protecting what matters?" I felt tears threatening. "You actually learned something from all this?" "I learned a lot," he sat back down. "About respect, about family, about how success isn't just about big ideas. It's about the details that make those ideas work." Sarah raised her glass. "To new partnerships?" "Wait," I held up my hand. "Before we toast, I need to know something. Why now? Why this position?" Derek looked at Robin, then back to me. Remember what you said in the conference room about building something better together? It made me realize that's what family should be about too. Not competition, not proving who's better, but combining our strengths. Even if one of those strengths is being obsessively detail-oriented, I smiled. Especially that, he laughed. God knows I need someone to keep me from rushing into patent violations. And the ring backup? That's my way of saying I trust you to protect what matters, both in business and in family. I picked up my glass, studying how the real ring caught the light, just as it should. In that case, I accept, both the position and the backup ring. To new beginnings, Robin proposed. To family, Sarah added. To protecting what matters, Derek finished. As we clinked glasses, I looked around the table. Here we were, the same people who had sat here months ago during that tense dinner when I discovered the ring swap. But everything had changed, not because of revenge or victory, but because of growth and understanding. Oh, and Yasmin? Derek grinned. Your first task as CLO is to review all our existing patents, every single detail. Careful what you wish for, I warned, but I was smiling too. That's exactly what I wish for, he replied seriously. Someone who cares enough to check every detail, who fights to protect what we're building, someone who turns enemies into partners and mistakes into opportunities. Even if that someone is your annoying sister-in-law? Especially if it's my brilliant sister-in-law. Later, as Robin and I drove home, he asked, "Happy with how things turned out?" I touched my wedding ring, thinking about karma and consequences, about revenge transformed into redemption. You know what? I am. It's not the victory I planned for, but maybe it's the one we all needed. Better than revenge? Much better, I agreed. Instead of destroying something, we built something stronger, both in business and in family. Speaking of building things, Robin smiled, Derek asked me to design the new Apex Seattle collaborative logo. Said he wanted it to represent both technical precision and artistic vision. I laughed. Look at him, bringing the whole family into the business. Well, Robin said, isn't that what protecting what matters is all about? I nodded, watching the city lights blur past our car window. The backup ring sat in my purse, not as a reminder of past hurts, but as a symbol of future trust. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding new ways to move forward together, one carefully checked detail at a time.